Hey, good evening, everybody. I'd like to welcome everyone to the Dover Select Board meeting for Tuesday, July 7th. Um, and it's now 6:30. And any public comments? Okay. All right, are there any additions or deletions to the agenda? All right. Is Matt, there you are. I was looking for a name, not a face.
Do I need to shut the air off, or you think guys hear okay?
I would like it. I'm freezing.
If I shut it off.
Freezing. All right, so we have under new business, we have review regional plan update and draft regional land use map with Matt Bachler.
Good evening. Thank you for having me tonight. I was planning on being there in person. I had spoke to Jeanette earlier just to let her know that we had some car issues today, so unfortunately I wasn't able to make it out there in person. So thanks for letting me join remotely. So I have a short presentation to go through, and then I'm happy to answer any questions. So as Sarah mentioned, my name is Matt Bachler. I work at the Windham Regional Commission, and I'm a senior planner at WRC, and I am the project lead on our regional plan update process. Just so for those that are not familiar with Windham Regional Commission, we are one of 11 regional planning commissions in the state of Vermont. We work in the southeast corner of the state. We serve 27 communities, including Dover in Windham, Bennington, and Windsor counties. So regional planning commissions, some of our primary responsibilities are to assist towns to provide effective local governance and to work collaboratively with towns in our region to address regional issues. We are also a technical resource for towns in all areas related to planning, town planning, zoning bylaws, grant management, and assistance with state and federal requirements. We are also required under state law to have a regional plan and to update our plan every 8 years. So similar cycle to your municipal plan for the town of Dover. We're also in our regional plan, we're required to address the same plan elements and also work towards the same statewide planning goals that you are required to do in your town plan. So our regional plan was last updated in July of last year, and we went through a pretty comprehensive update process for that version of our current plan. The regional plan, in addition to addressing those different plan elements, it also provides information on demographic, land use and development trends and issues at the regional level. So it is an informational resource for our towns to understand what the broader issues are in our region that may not just be impacting themselves as an individual municipality. It provides policy guidance on growth and development in the region, and then it also establishes a basis for our work program. So similar to how your town plan includes recommended action steps, our regional plan is also used to develop what we're going to be working on in the years ahead after the plan is adopted. Different from the town plan, our regional plan is only advisory, so our regional plan is not used as a basis for any regulations or permitting. So there's no county zoning. Zoning and land use regulations are only handled at the municipal level. We also don't own any infrastructure like a town does, so we don't do any capital planning. And one of the main ways our regional plan is used is in the Act 250 process. So, like towns, we're also included in all notices about Act 250 projects. And the regional plan sets standards for when WRC will provide comments on a project if it meets our definition for a substantial regional impact. So most Act 250 permits in our region are relatively small and don't meet the requirements or definitions for a substantial regional impact. We have that defined in our plan, and that's up on the screen here. But so these are projects under Act 250 that require regional resources, services, facilities, or because of their size, location, or type of development, are going to benefit the region as a whole, be necessary to the well-being of the region, be responsible for impacts to regional resources, services, or facilities located outside of the region, but still affecting our region in some manner, affect multiple towns, continue to cause ongoing concern to the region or its communities, or having cumulative regional impacts as the result of multiple projects or ongoing development. So in Dover, Windham Regional Commission, as you know, has been involved in Act 250 permits for Mount Snow. But that's in recent years, that's probably the primary example of where WRC has provided comments on an Act 250 permit in Dover as related to Mount Snow and its master plan. So next I'll talk about Act 181 and how that relates to our regional plan. So probably you have heard about the Act 181 legislation that passed in Vermont in 2024. Act 181 makes a lot of changes to the state's land use planning and regulatory requirements specifically regarding regional plans, Act 250, and when a permit's required under Act 250, and the state designation program. So I'll be primarily talking about the impact of Act 181 on regional plan requirements, but I'll talk about those other components too. So for our regional plan, we were in the process of updating our plan, and we're pretty close to completing it when Act 181 passed. So we decided to move ahead with approving our plan in July of 2025, and then going back and addressing these new Act 181 requirements once we had a little more time and we're done with that current update process. So with our current regional plan update, we're focused on addressing new statewide future land use categories, and then also including regional and municipal housing targets based on data provided to us by the Vermont Housing Finance Agency. All regional planning commissions have to have a adopted regional plan that addresses the Act 181 requirements by December 31st of this year. And another change under Act 181 is the creation of a new state land use review board, which has several different responsibilities, but one of them is to review and approve regional plans, which there was not a state approval of our regional plan before Act 181.
Matt?
Yep. Yes,
Um,
Sarah.
oh, okay, you got to it, never mind.
Okay. Yeah.
Because you mentioned tier 3 and the road rule in the document.
Yeah. So if you've been following just the most recent legislative session, Senate Bill
Nice.
325, which passed the Senate and the House and was signed by the governor a few weeks ago now, did fully repeal what is called Tier 3, which I'll talk about just in a little bit. And it also repealed the road rule. So Tier 3 and the road rule, just briefly, these were reforms in Act 181 specifically related to Act 250. So they weren't connected to our regional plan and our update process. Tier 3 would have required Act 250 permits in certain areas of the state based on natural resources being in those areas, where before a permit would not be required. So it was additional Act 250 permitting requirements in Tier 3 areas. And then similarly, the road rule would have also required an Act 250 permit for new roads and driveways more than a certain number of linear feet. But both of those provisions were fully repealed, and so they are no longer in effect. And so some of the information we still have on our website and that I shared is outdated because Tier 3 and the road rule are now no longer in existence. So just to turn to the updates that we've been working on. So I mentioned there are now consistent regional future land use categories. So these are in statute and were created as part of Act 181. So these are the new land use categories listed on the screen. And instead of walking through them, I'm going to, in the next few slides, provide a bit of a description of each of these. And again, regional planning commissions are now required to map out these land use categories so that there's consistency between the different regional planning commissions. So we're all using the same land use categories and using the same mapping methodology. So mapping these areas in the same way across the state. So the first four areas are areas where the intention is the most kind of intense types of development and highest density types of development would occur. So these are downtown centers and village centers. So those are the core mixed use centers within a community. They include commercial, residential, and civic uses. And then planned growth areas and village areas. These are kind of the natural extensions of your core settlement area. In some communities, they are very large, and in smaller communities, they might be relatively small, or a town may not have any planned growth or village areas. But it's that settlement and future growth areas extending from a downtown or village center that still have a high concentration of population, housing, and employment. One thing to note, and this is relevant to Dover, is in statute to map an area as planned growth or village area, the town has to have zoning and subdivision bylaws. So Dover currently has zoning bylaws. We're working with the Planning Commission to update the zoning bylaws to include subdivision bylaws that would meet this state requirement. But when we get to the draft map, you'll see that we don't have any planned growth or village areas mapped in Dover, even though there are areas that I would consider to meet that criteria, except we don't currently have the subdivision bylaws in place. The next three areas are kind of special planning areas. They're areas where there's still a fair amount of activity. They're outside of a kind of a historic town or village center. Enterprise areas are areas with high economic activity and employment, like an industrial park that might be located next to a highway away from a center. Resource-based recreation areas. These are larger scale recreational facilities in our region. We have four of these, which are all based around ski resorts, including Mount Snow and Dover. So it includes the ski resorts, but also commercial businesses and housing that's kind of immediately around that resort area. And then transition and infill areas. These are areas of existing or planned commercial office or mixed use development that are outside of your village center, but with the goal of transforming these areas into higher density mixed use settlements than what currently exists. And then there are three rural categories. In our region and in Dover, most land areas fall within one of these rural land use areas. So rural general is low and moderate density residential areas. It can include some limited commercial development that's compatible with productive lands and natural areas. Rural, agricultural, and forestry are larger blocks of forest or farmland that support those resource industries. They have other benefits too, wildlife habitat, outdoor recreation, flood storage. And they provide too for low density residential uses. And then rural conservation, these are lands with ecological value that require additional protection due to those natural resources. So development, it's should have a minimal impact on those natural resources. A lot of rural conservation land is already conserved, either in federal or state or local forest land, or under conservation easement. But land, just because land is within rural conservation does not mean that the intention is for it to be conserved. It just has some type of ecological value where we just need to be careful if development happens there. So this screen is showing our existing, what was called proposed land use map on the left-hand side of the slide. So this is from our 2025 regional plan, and we've had a proposed land use map for decades within our regional plan and have made adjustments and revisions to it with our plan update process, but have had these land use categories for a number of years. And then the map on the right-hand side is showing the draft updated future land use map with those new land use categories included in Act 181. I, will note that the land use categories in our existing plan, while the names of the land use categories are different, there's a lot of similarities between what we have in our current plan and and the categories within Act 181. So just for example, there's a lot of similarities between what we call productive rural in our 2025 plan and what is rural agriculture and forestry with the Act 181 land use categories. Um, and the next slide shows for the town of Dover, just zooming in on Dover, showing your future land use map. So just to walk you through the map here. So the areas shown in dark purple are village centers. So Dover has two existing designated village centers and retains that designation for West Dover and East Dover with the Act 181 changes. With our mapping, we are showing a larger village center, especially for Westover. I think it's slightly larger for Eastover, but not significantly different. But Westover, we did expand the village center boundaries for our future land use map, and that will directly also expand the areas eligible for the state designation program for the village center. So those are the village centers, Westover and Eastover. Along Route 100, you can see to the north and south of Westover, we have that mapped as transition or infill area in orange. So again, those are areas where you have existing commercial development, based on the town's land use plan and your zoning. There is an intention to allow for higher intensity commercial and residential uses in those areas. And so this is supportive of that. The lighter shade of yellow is rural general. So again, that's low and moderate density residential uses. That largely reflects what you have in your land use and your zoning. resource-based recreation area. That's the kind of mint green color that's around Mount Snow ski area, but also, again, some of the associated residential and commercial development around the base of Mount Snow. Rural agriculture and forestry, that's kind of the sage green color. So there's quite a bit of that in Eastover, and then also south along Handle Road. And then rural conservation is the darker shaded green. As the town knows, a lot of land that is conserved in Dover falls within Green Mountain National Forest, and then there's also a large town forest area as well in the northern part of town. So all those, the town forest and Green Mountain National Forest land is all shown as rural conservation. But again, there are some properties that are under conservation easement or have some important ecological resources that are included in that. And then because we're mapping at the regional level too, all these land use areas extend beyond the borders of Dover. So we're also looking at land areas in adjacent towns to make sure that there's some continuity between how we've mapped in Dover and adjacent communities. Um, so I've got a few more slides, but we can definitely come back to look at this map as well. So for Act 250, so under Act 181, Act 250 was reformed to create this new tier system. Now with Senate Bill 325, we still have Tier 1, but Tier 2 and Tier 3 are going away as part of that process. So regional planning commissions were never involved in the Tier 2 or Tier 3 process. Our work is just related to Tier 1. So I'll talk about Tier 1 here. So regional planning commissions, through their mapping process, are identifying areas that would be eligible for Tier 1A or Tier 1B. So that would include village centers, downtown centers, village areas, and planned growth areas. Tier 1B provides exemption from Act 250 permitting requirements for residential development that can include anywhere up to 50 dwelling units. So it could be 10 housing units, it could be 35 housing units. That would be exempt, but anything over 50 units would still require an Act 250 permit. And then Tier 1A provides full exemption from Act 250. Now, there are other criteria as well that a town needs to meet to be eligible for Tier 1A or Tier 1B. But one of the requirements is that the Regional Planning Commission has mapped it as one of those four land use areas. But again, our map doesn't impact local regulations, so it just is related to potential exemption from the Act 250 state permit. Even though it's going away, just briefly, Tier 3, the Land Use Review Board was responsible for mapping Tier 3 areas, looking at different critical natural resource areas across the state, and they were also responsible for rulemaking related to that, but there was no connection between our regional plan and Tier 3. And then Tier 2 was just everywhere else that was not in Tier 1A or Tier 3. And generally, Tier 2 was just the status quo under Act 250 permitting requirements before Act 181. The Land Use Review Board was also responsible for the road rule, but again, that has been repealed. Act 181 also makes some changes to the state designation program. So as I mentioned, Dover has two designated village centers, West Dover and East Dover. So there's nothing the town needs to do to retain those existing designations. But going forward, designation will be based on the regional future land use map. So areas that we map as a downtown center or a village center automatically become what are now known as centers instead of village or downtown centers under the state designation program. And then areas that we map as planned growth area or village areas become designated neighborhoods under this program. The benefits, there's no impact or requirements just in terms of local land use regulations. The program provides benefits for property owners and for municipalities. So there's tax credit funding for commercial properties, and um, that includes residential rental properties. There's state grant funding priority for municipalities. So Dover, for certain state grants, gets funding priority because you have those designated village centers. There's water and wastewater permit fee reductions for property owners. And then there are several other benefits as well. This program is managed by the Department of Housing and Community Development. That's the DHCD acronym at the bottom of the slide. So their website provides a lot of helpful information on this program. I know Dover is familiar with it because you already are participating in it. But as you recall, the draft map shows an expanded village center designation for Westover, so that would increase the number of properties that would be eligible for those benefits. So next, I'm going to talk about our regional and municipal housing targets. So the Vermont Housing Finance Agency a couple of years ago developed housing targets for each region in the state based on different population growth assumptions. So for our region, and they provided a lower and upper range just based on different assumptions for growth. For our region in 2030, they had a target of 2,571 new housing units to 3,730. And by 2050, about 8,000 to over 15,000 housing units to meet expected needs. This is also addressing our current deficit in housing, so trying to make up for housing that we currently need just to get to a point where we have a more stable housing market. So then regional planning commissions were required to take those regional numbers and break them down by each municipality. And um, that's odd. I had a slide in here with Dover's housing targets, and it must have been deleted. So I apologize for that. What I can do is, while I'm taking questions, I can just find those numbers just in a minute here. Again, for both the regional and municipal housing targets, I do want to emphasize that the housing targets they're only a goal that um, for regions and for towns to meet. So a lot of it is just to kind of underscore how much housing we need to have a more just a healthier housing market. So there's no requirement that Windham Regional or the town of Dover meets these housing targets. Towns generally are not in the business of building housing, so for towns, you can just continue to make sure your land use regulations are supporting housing and you're providing infrastructure and services to support that housing. But there's no requirement that we meet these targets. And this is just my contact information, which is on our website as well. We have a page on our website dedicated to the regional plan update process. Just to note too, we we're in the first public hearing stage of our regional plan. So we've submitted a draft plan to the Land Use Review Board in early June. They're actually going to be doing a site visit and public meeting tomorrow in our region. That public meeting is happening at the Brattleboro Public Library in the afternoon. That's an in-person, but also a remote meeting. If anyone's interested in attending that, we do have information on our website about that. And then we'll be sending information about this to towns in the next week or two, but we'll have our first public hearing on the draft plan on August 18th. And then we'll be making additional updates to the plan based on comments from towns and members of the public and the Land Use Review Board. Like I said, we have to approve our plan by December 31st of this year, so we'll be working on updates this fall. So with that, I'm happy to take any questions, and I will also just try to locate those missing housing numbers.
Matt, I have two questions for you. I might have more after that, depending on your answer. First of all, how does the designated categories in the land use map connect to town zoning districts or zoning categories, I guess? And then well, I'll stop with that and I'll reserve. I got another question. It's not related to that.
Okay. Yeah, so for our mapping process to develop the regional future land use map, we considered a lot of different factors. So these new land use categories they're defined in statute, so they're in state law with a description of these different land use areas. So we needed to develop the map based on that. All the regional planning commissions created just a shared mapping methodology too. So we're all trying to use a similar strategy for how we map these areas. We looked at existing settlement patterns, natural resources constraints, steep slopes, things like that. But we also looked at how towns have mapped areas in their future land use maps within their own town plans. And we also considered how towns have zoned areas as well. But we have to we have to consider all those different inputs in putting together a draft map. So the intention is not to create a future land use map that just directly follows zoning district boundaries within a town, but that's something we factored in too, especially if a town, just for example, if a town was zoning an area for higher intensity uses that maybe it's an area that's not developed currently, but the town has an intention to try to encourage more development there, we would maybe look at that and if it meets these other requirements under state law, designate that as an area where you would expect to see higher intensity uses. So I guess the short answer is we had to consider a lot of different things in putting it together. But a town zoning map was just one of the criteria.
Second question then, on your housing slide, you had a certain number of units. What are the units that are in there? So we say 2,571. What is that? 2,571 what?
Yeah, so that's dwelling units. So it could be 2,571 single family detached homes. It could be 2,571 multifamily units within, multiple larger apartment buildings. So any type of dwelling unit counts towards that goal, whether it's a single family home or an apartment or an accessory dwelling unit. Does that answer your question, Patrick?
Well, it kind of does, but I could see that being a big range if I have a single family home with one bedroom with one person or a single family home with four bedrooms that sleeps eight.
Hmm.
I'm trying to connect those numbers to what we expect in terms of population trends and how realistic those are so that we think of
Yeah.
it the right way in terms of goals.
Yeah, no, it's a good point. And at the municipal level, we're Windham Regional is just required to provide towns with a target, and we're providing a lower and upper target too, similar to what was provided to us as a region as a whole. We are required in our regional plan to provide an estimate. It notes here provide an estimate in terms of price, unit size, or type of for these housing units, but that's not something that towns are required to do. So in our draft regional plan, we do include some discussion on um, the price of housing that's needed. I think we all know there's a need for housing that is more within reach for a larger number of residents. So we talk about just the need for housing that's more affordable for, especially for workforce, folks in the workforce. And we also, in our regional plan, to your point about unit size, you know, we're we're a region that is growing older, and we have a lot of households that are just one or two individuals, and there is a need for more dwelling units that are just one bedroom units. And so we talk about that within our regional plan as well. But you are correct. A single family home with four bedrooms can provide housing for more people than just a one bedroom apartment unit.
Thank you.
George or Dan, do you guys have questions?
I would love to see what Dover is expected to be. That's all. If you could
Yeah.
find that slide, that'd be great.
Yeah, I'm just going to
That'd
stop
be
sharing
more,
for a second just so I can.
that's kind of like an important slide, I think. It's just for me to know the numbers.
Left it off.
I don't think I want to know or not know.
So can you answer questions while you're looking, or should we let you look?
Oh, I just found it actually. For some reason I hit hide slide in the PowerPoint. So it's in there, it just got hidden. So I'm just gonna pull this back up. So for Dover, so we developed housing targets. The way we did it, we looked at existing population, existing number of year-round housing units. So Dover, as we know, Dover has the highest percentage of seasonal dwelling units in our region. So it's roughly 80% of housing units are seasonal in Dover. So we just looked at year-round housing units in Dover. And then we also looked at availability of infrastructure within a community. So Dover, at least in West Dover, is an area where there is wastewater infrastructure, not public water currently. So the availability of that infrastructure does mean potentially more housing could be built, just having that infrastructure in place. So those are the criteria we looked at. We developed these housing targets for each town in the region. For Dover, we have a range of 110 to 159 units by 2030, and then by 2050, 342 to 668. So it's a much larger range when you get out to 2050, and that's because the targets we got for the region from the state, as you can see in 2050, it's double the upper target is double what the lower target is. So, um, as we assigned municipal housing targets, we also had that large range going out to 2050. I think realistically, I think for us as a region, it's going to be very hard even to get to the lower target by 2050. 2030 is now less than 5 years away, and there's no way we're going to be getting anywhere close to the lower target for 2030. So um, I'm sure these numbers look high, but I do want to stress that there's no requirement that the town m meet these targets. It just is kind of highlighting just our need for housing in the region.
Joe?
Um, so what area is targeted to have or supposedly gonna have the most or wanted by this targeting and whatever? What town has the largest targets? Is it
Yeah,
Brattleboro? Is it Putney? Is it for
yeah,
Wilmington? Like how is it being
yeah.
big, for our community? For
So
our
Brattleboro definitely has the highest targets, and just for any a number of reasons, just the infrastructure they have in place, um, and um, and then after that it would be Rockingham, especially Bellows Falls. Putney has relatively high numbers. Wilmington too, because of the infrastructure. Um, so Dover, I would say, is more kind of in the middle, but probably like probably a little on the higher end in the middle, because you just based on existing population and availability of wastewater infrastructure in West Dover. It is like slightly higher than just the kind of median town in the region. But I forget, I think Brattleboro, I don't have the numbers in front of me. So we have the housing targets for every town in the region on the regional plan update page on our website. We do have those housing targets, and I want to say Brattleboro is around 25% of the regional target. So about 25% of these numbers here. Um, yeah.
Matt? So we're talking about housing targets, but we also know that historically Vermont is losing population, right? So why are we concerned with building more housing? Unless we've also got a plan for growing the state population, because of the way it's going, we need fewer units.
Yeah, and I think so. I think from the states, I think from the state's perspective and putting together these housing targets, I think one thing that they considered is, and I'm not an expert in terms of housing markets and housing economics, but I think we all know like the cost of housing right now is just not in line with what people can afford. So I think from the state's perspective, there's a certain number of additional housing units we need just to help bring down the cost of housing in general. So if we had more supply, costs would come down. So some of it is just to try to balance out the housing market. Um, to your point, Sarah, these targets were put together a few years ago, and they were based on growth assumptions looking back at population change within recent years. And so for the lower and upper targets, there were different growth assumptions. The upper target assuming a larger population growth trend. Some of these numbers were picking up, population growth we saw during the pandemic years, which there was a temporary uptick in population growth, and then that's leveled off now back to kind of pre-pandemic, uh, the kind of pre-pandemic average, I would say, for the state. So the numbers are not, um, it's not an exact science, I would say. And if you're doing, population growth assumptions, that's only as good as the data that you're using, and it's constantly needing to be updated. So these are the numbers we have from the state, and we're required to use these numbers both in our regional plan and for the municipal targets. But I don't I don't disagree that I don't think these numbers are really what is needed or is realistic, but it's kind of what we have to work with.
So we're talking about non-seasonal year-round housing. So would part of the way to reach that target would be for second homes to become primary homes without actually building another unit? Like, would that count as as an increase?
That's a good question. I think I don't know the answer to that.
Okay,
Yeah, that's a good question.
so and then would it be possible to get, and I realize that the plan isn't finalized, but to get get an overlay over Dover zoning districts of
Mhm.
these so that we can see everything on one piece of paper? Like, can we overlay that on Dover zoning districts?
Yes, I think that would be easy for us to do. I could work with Jeff at our office. We'd probably just kind of make it more kind of like an informal map, but just
Right.
showing yeah. And I think, yeah, that would be interesting to see. One thing we are constrained by is that before Act 181, like I said, we had a future land use map, we had our own land use categories, and we were able to develop that ourselves, Windham Regional. And now we are constrained by these new land use categories and needing to have a plan approved by the Land Use Review Board. So we used to have a little more control over our land use planning, and now we're constrained by these new state definitions.
So, and then you said that the plan has to be updated every 8 years,
That's correct. Yeah.
but the last one was just approved in 25.
So yes. So our last one was just approved in July 29th of last year. Act 181 was passed in 2024, and in statute, regional planning commissions have to have a regional plan in place that meets all the Act 181 requirements by December 31st of 2026. So, our if we don't update our plan by December 31st of this year, then we would be out of compliance with state law.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, we have to update it again.
They do.
They
Yeah.
go.
Sam had a question.
Is there a concept of building more housing with more competition to reduce the price of housing, and that would bring more people to Vermont?
Yeah, I mean, I think that is the hope. With housing, it's as we all know, it's complicated. It's hard to attract more people to Vermont if we don't have housing that people can afford. So I think we all have heard stories from businesses that can't recruit people here because there's not enough housing. So I do think there is a need just for more housing, just to make it more viable for someone to move here to find a house. So I think that the hope is, can we create more housing to help bring down costs? But the challenge is too that you also need a strong local economy and enough jobs to help support support that housing as well.
Anybody else have any questions? No. Matt, thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you for having me. Please reach out if you have any questions. Even though we're in this um, pre-application phase with the Land Use Review Board, if there are revisions you would like to see to the map, please let me know. We're not able to make all revisions again because we're constrained by state requirements, but we'll work with you to make changes where we can to the map. But
So I think having that overlay with our zoning districts would be a good, that I think that'll make it easier for us to see if there's any conflict points that need to be addressed.
okay,
Okay,
that sounds good. Yeah.
thank
Okay.
you.
Thanks for having me.
Take
Nice to
care.
see you all. Take care.
Okay, next, town clerk. Authorize restoration of records expense of up to $7,000 for roller shelving.
Second.
That
Nice.
wasn't even a motion. You can't make a motion.
Thank you.
can't get it. Gotta have it. so.
Gotta have it. And you got the information that I provided. It's not money from the general fund supplied by property taxes. It's a per page fee
Mhm.
for recording. That Jeanette and I do every day. We got plenty. Last time we spent it was in 2018 for roller shelving. Same stuff. Very specialized product. Very, very few, like one manufacturer. They've cornered the market. That's where everybody gets it.
No, we're fighting over it.
Yeah. Any questions? I'm happy to answer them.
All right,
So
so,
buy two in case they go out of business.
If they go out of business, every recorder, county recorder in New York, town recorder in Vermont, everybody's somebody will fill the void, I'm sure, but.
so I need a motion to authorize the select board to sign the letter. Authorizing Andy to spend up to $7,000 for roller shelving.
So moved.
Second,
All in favor?
Sarah, did you get my email about the school minutes?
I did, and I read them and I can sign them.
Awesome.
Well,
No, you don't need to do it now. I just wanted to give you a hard copy, so when you do feel comfortable, you can sign it.
doing it right now.
Awesome, yeah,
No first yet?
yeah.
Welcome.
Well,
Okay, Andy, thank you very much.
thank you. You guys have a good night.
On those records.
Oh, sweet.
Signed by 4 of us.
Awesome.
That's why I get there.
Yep,
Probably
thank you, Jeanette.
Have Jeanette use the copy of it.
I'll put it downstairs. Thank you.
All right,
Thank you, Andy.
and now we will consider a new town forest fire warden designation. There was a letter from the Department of Forest, Parks and Recreation that we now have to designate. And my understanding is it needs to be one of our fire chiefs.
That is correct, according to the new legislation, yes.
Okay, and there was, and John has offered to be appointed. I don't know how enthusiastically he offered, but he offered.
The only one who's going to, this is a sick act.
Yeah, I'm very willing, based on the fact that before I put my name, I talked with the existing wardens, Dave and Rick. And they said they're perfectly willing to stay on as deputies.
Wonderful.
So they'll still have. So you'll be and then there'll be deputies like.
That's correct.
Okay.
That's correct, so
Who are, did you say Dan and?
Rick Fletcher.
Rick Fletcher and Dave Shelving.
There's so.
Okay. All right, yes, Jeanette?
So John, do you appoint them deputies or?
Yes, that would be the process, the information coming from the state at this point is that That is pretty much what the majority of the town is doing.
All right, so make a, entertain a motion to appoint John Abel as our town fire warden.
I move to appoint John Abel as the Dover Town Fire Warden.
A second,
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Congratulations.
when do I get it from there?
Congratulations and thank you.
Thanks, thank you, John.
Okay.
Over.
All right. And now, Police Department. Consider Windham County Regional Law Enforcement Governance Council. And so we got a letter from Sheriff Anderson. And I assume that police chief would have some input on this conversation. Am I right?
If you'd like it,
Yes.
Would.
I talked to Mark for quite a while about this, he called to let me know this was coming. He nor I think it applies to Dover, it was never intended for towns like Dover, Wilmington, and Brattleboro that have municipal departments, this is a service to the outliers that are in need of services. But he nor I can make that decision. Opting in or out of this pilot program is the responsibility of the town's select boards.
Okay.
I make a motion, we opt out.
No, you have to make a motion. It has to be made the affirmative. So you have to make a motion to agree and then we all vote against it.
Whatever. Whatever you want.
That's
So what do you want me to
Robert.
say now?
Just say, make a motion to join the Windham County Regional Law Enforcement Governance Council.
Okay.
Okay. And then a second.
I said that.
All right, and then we just vote against it. So all in favor?
Well, can I do want to ask, just.
Yeah.
So what is ostensibly is it supposed to provide to us? I don't understand.
So it doesn't.
It's it's a pilot program that's
Yeah.
designed to figure out a way to provide policing services to towns that don't have their own police departments.
Okay. Right,
And they already have that option of contracting with the sheriff's office, but this is supposed to be a way to consolidate those requests and streamline it.
is there a disadvantage to us of not participating in it?
We have our
That
own
might-
police department.
No, I just want to make sure.
Not that I can think of or I'm aware of, no, we
Okay.
have no need and Sheriff Anderson agrees
Okay,
that he can't offer anything that we don't currently do.
okay.
Patrick, you will have to go to the meeting if you decide to be out of it. And so more meetings, more time spent
Yeah,
on something that really is not
It's redundant.
right.
right,
So that just,
right, but I want to understand, make sure before I vote yes or no on this, or vote for or against the motion as it's presented.
Yeah.
I understand both, what we're saying no to if we say no.
Right.
So am I correct in assuming that this letter went out to every single town in the county? And no discrimination was made when they issued these letters to, well, we shouldn't even bother sending one to Brattleboro or Wilmington.
Right.
They
Again,
just
his,
sent it.
Send it to everyone, okay.
his reasoning for sending it to everyone is that it's not his job to dictate who has the option to opt in or out.
Okay.
He sent it to everyone because that services the entire county.
I have no
Okay.
more questions, thank you.
All right. So,
can I just say something?
of course,
This may help, and maybe Mike could say, no, it's not going to. Is technically if there's a call in Wardsboro and we're closest. We end up going, correct or incorrect?
I don't know how that relates to this, but yes, we
Right.
ended up going to
So,
other calls in other
right.
town halls.
So what I'm saying is that this may create where we're not. Having to have to respond to towns that possibly in the future. Because they have a contract with the sheriff's department, the response will be from the sheriff's department. Because they'll have more people maybe out there, not out there, I don't know if is that something that could occur and help with as I'm talking or not.
It's a pilot program, and if you read
Yeah.
the paperwork thoroughly, it's going to be up to the towns and this council. What those services look like,
Right,
how
right.
much they're paying for it. How that is tracked and
staffed.
all of that,
Right.
so. Yeah, if Wardsboro chooses to have the sheriffs in town 24/7, then yeah, they'll be there, but that's probably not gonna be the case, it'll probably be more like. certain hours of certain days or certain tough cases, I don't know.
So long and short, it might be no different than what we have now,
Possible.
in terms of a service position.
Yes, yeah, no one knows at this point, and I don't think they voted on it, but last I heard was where I wasn't terribly interested in joining this program anyway, so.
All right. Are we ready to vote?
I am,
Okay, all in favor,
no,
all opposed,
nay.
so it's 0-0-4-0 is the vote.
Okay, I guess I missed it.
Oh, the motion was to join the Windham County Regional Law Enforcement Governance Council.
Right, I'm sorry, and I missed.
Who made the
Patrick?
motion? Joe moved, Patrick
No, it's
seconded.
Dan second.
Dan seconded, sorry.
Thank you.
Okay.
Our way.
So review candidates and fill the road crew position. Travis, hello.
Yep.
What,
Brian and I are starting interviews this week, so I'll have to revisit this at the next meeting.
okay, and how many candidates do you have?
We have three applications for three applications for the full-time position, and I have received one part-time storm work as we need application too. So we're gonna take a look at them, and I'll be back at the next meeting.
Okay, so we should ask Jeanette to put this on the agenda for next week.
Yeah.
Or 2 weeks from now.
Yep.
Sorry.
So she already knows that.
Okay, you just want to be official and everything.
Okay.
Okay. And then to review the language for the personnel policy and job description for the transfer station.
Yeah, I looked it over what Jeanette had come up with, and she had gotten it from VLCT, and I have no problem with it. I think it looks great.
Me too.
Okay,
I would say.
so we just need to vote to approve the change?
Yes,
Okay,
change in the personnel policy and in the job description.
So what specifically has changed?
Has to do with- it has to
One or
do
has
with
with the
holiday.
the holidays.
Has to do
It
with
was his holiday.
benefits, which covers holidays. Okay,
And that's new, those provisions, is that
Yep.
correct?
All right.
Yeah.
as they're written, yeah.
As they're written.
Okay, so, entertain a motion to approve the language changes for the personnel policy and job description for the transfer station attendant.
Second.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks.
Motion to go into the Board of Liquor Control,
So moved.
Second.
all in favor?
Aye.
All right.
I'm gonna take it on.
You can read it, yeah, we don't have. We can do them all at one, in one,
Yes,
in a single
yes.
motion.
Right. I move to approve the first and third class licenses for TAC Associates, DBA TC's Tavern. The first and third class licenses and outside consumption permits for Trail 87 and 7th Vermont Hospitality, DBA Last Chair Bar and Grill. The second class licenses for APT Inc., DBA Tony's Pizza, and SM Market LLC, DBA Snow Mountain Market. And the request to cater permit by WI Foster LLC for a pickleball tournament on July 17th from 5:30 to 7:30 p.m.
Subject to receipt of all fees and documents.
Subject to receipt of all fees and documents and a nod from our police
You already
deputies.
got it.
Okay.
I always look at him first.
Okay,
Okay, all in favor?
well, you need a second. You need a
I
second.
thought you
Oh,
said,
you're second.
you made the motion.
Okay, right.
Right.
Double second this.
You second.
You seconded it. All right, all in favor? Motion to come out of the Board of Liquor Control,
So move.
Second.
all in favor? All right, we need to approve the minutes of June 16th, June 18th, and June 25th. Do we have any people who are not in attendance at any of those meetings?
Don't think so.
See, I'm looking at Jim.
Oh, well, I wasn't at either, I mean, the 18th, was, we met at the firehouse.
Right, we were all.
I believe you were all there.
Yeah.
And
25th, I know you were all there. That's not you then.
And then the 16th,
16th.
were we all in attendance?
And go
June, that was just the last regular.
Yeah,
board
Right.
meeting.
Last regular.
Yeah, that was the last regular.
Yes, everyone was here.
Okay, so we can do this as a single motion.
I move to approve the minutes of June 16, June 18, and June 25, 26.
Seconds.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right. Do we have an amount on the July 4th warrants? My,
Who are you looking at? It's got an extra
I
digit.
have the one Vicky gave me.
Oh, it does, sorry. 209,
Mhm.
809, 73.
I move to approve the warrants of June 20, 2026 in the amount of $300,333. Let me try that again, $333,613.05, and July 4th, 2026 in the amount of $209,809.73.
All right,
Second.
all in favor?
Aye.
Right, FYI, is concert in the park on,
Well, yeah,
never mind.
it was Sunday, but. this went out.
Another concert in the park this Wednesday at 6 p.m. Miss Paula and the Twang Busters. Sunday, July 12th at 2 p.m. Midnight Betty. And a joint meeting between the Dover Select Board and the Dover Water Task Force on July 15th at 6 p.m. at the Dover Town Hall. That's to review the final draft.
It's a question and answer session
Q&A.
for the feasibility study.
Okay. Right, do we have any liaison reports?
Yes. With respect to the assessor's office and the status of the reappraisal. We have been spending some time this week, thanks also to Sarah and Marco who stepped up to volunteer to help. We're behind schedule in terms of the statutory deadlines for some of the things that needed to be done. The grievance period by statute needed to be done by July 2nd, and it is not. The grievance hearings, to be specific. The notices of decisions are scheduled to go out on July 9th. They probably will not be, however, we have a plan to get through this. We made a bunch of the follow-up calls that needed to be made that were backed up based on the volume of those calls that Linda had received. And she has a plan that she's going to be working on going forward to complete the opinions from the grievance hearings that have been conducted, as well as the written submissions that she has received. And we also did an outreach today to those people who had called but had not submitted it, that had not gotten an opportunity to present any submissions for grievance. Just simply because of the volume again. And we've given those people until the 13th, which is Monday, at 5 p.m. to submit written grievance packages that will be considered along with the rest. But after that, that's it. And then Linda's got a big lift ahead of her to work through all of those, but she's got a plan. So more to come. Keep everyone updated.
Okay, does anybody have any questions? Thank you. And we're going to go into an executive session for personnel.
Yep.
At a motion to go into executive session,
So moved.
second, at 7:39. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Thank you, everybody.
Sorry,
Thanks, Mike.
Say Mike. See you,
I'm
Jim.
gonna be in the air for this. Back until the meeting. I don't know what time.
Get on an earlier flight, Dan, what the hell? Yeah.